Hello everybody and welcome to WaterLogged, a deep dive into sea life captivity. Our fact of the day is orcas in the wild can travel over 100 miles a day, but in captivity they may swim in circles in tanks barely a fraction of that range. This restriction has serious physical and psychological consequences, and it's just one part of the larger story we're here to discuss. Today we're diving into a topic that's often overlooked but deeply impactful: the captivity of marine animals. Whether you're passionate about animal rights, love visiting marine parks, or are simply curious about the ethical dilemmas of modern wildlife care, this discussion's for you. Understanding how marine animals are treated and why helps us make more informed choices as visitors, students, and future professionals. Today's panel will unpack the issue from three perspectives: public aquariums, SeaWorld, and marine rehabilitation centers. I'm your host, Emily, and here today with me is
Hannah,
Katie,
Garrett.
So to start us off, what are your guys' experiences with attractions like SeaWorld?
I've visited SeaWorld a couple times as a kid, and after learning more about the conditions that they keep their animals in, I wouldn't go back.
I also visited SeaWorld when I was a kid. The only memory I really have is just seeing the sharks in the shark area and then crying because I was really scared because I was a really little kid and the sharks kind of freaked me out. And then my dad had to come for me, and I don't remember anything else other than that. So yeah, that's my experience with SeaWorld.
Yeah, I also visited SeaWorld when I was really young. I don't remember it that well. I think I remember seeing, the famous orcas, but I would also never go back because of how they've currently been treating their animals.
Okay, so I've never been to SeaWorld, so can you kind of elaborate on how SeaWorld treats their animals?
A couple years ago, I heard that a lot of their animals have died in their care sooner than they should have, especially the orcas.
Actually, SeaWorld has been under a lot of scrutiny recently. It was found that they are sexually abusing their orcas, dolphins, and belugas for breeding reasons.
Are they doing that to kind of help with the population? Because I know they have a lot of endangered species, or is that just why are they doing that?
Well, unfortunately, no. They're only breeding the animals for entertainment purposes, because they're not releasing those animals back into the wild, so they're not repopulating.
Are they at least keeping their tanks clean, or at least providing some kind of equivalent environment for them while they're in the location?
Also, unfortunately, no, they're not keeping the animals in good tanks at all. In a good aquarium, you would see the tank decorated like the ocean with sand, coral, all of that. However, when you go visit SeaWorld, you'll see that their living space is more like an empty concrete tank where they're just living alone. This is currently causing a lot of stress on these marine animals, and it's cutting their life short due to the stress and depression, and they're actually going into a psychosis for these animals. It's really sad.
Yeah, so obviously SeaWorld is a little bit on the more extreme side of things. So what are y'all's thoughts just about normal aquariums and your experiences with that?
I think there's a lot of good aquariums out there whose purpose is to raise awareness for endangered species, and also they help inspire future generations, I think, to want to get into that line of work and help out with sea conservation and sea life. So I definitely think SeaWorld is a huge example of a negative kind of aquarium, and that takes a lot of the spotlight because it's such a major corporation and company, but there's a lot of smaller ones around the country I feel that are very good.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. It's in Clearwater, Florida, but I've been there a couple times, and they're definitely good at raising awareness, especially for endangered species, but also for fishing accidents and pollution. They definitely brought my attention to marine conservation throughout the years.
I have heard about that aquarium, but I haven't been able to go there. It's nice that they're actually raising awareness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy you guys have had the experience to go to some of these other really good aquariums. Unfortunately, I haven't. I have a friend who's from Georgia who's been to the one in Georgia. I've heard really good things about that. So I'd definitely love to go to an aquarium soon, a positive one. I heard there's one in Daytona. I'm curious if that one's good. I've heard it's kind of small. It looks a little small from the outside, so it'd be interesting to look into that one and see if that one's a good local option.
Yeah, I saw the Daytona one too. I've not had a chance to go to Daytona or Clearwater, but on the topic of the Georgia Aquarium, I really like that one. They even have their own environmental health team that just makes sure all the animals are taken care of to the best of their abilities, and it's really interesting. You can go in and scuba dive with the whale sharks and everything as well, but they take really good care of their whale sharks, which is my favorite part. But I know a lot of aquariums don't really like live up to the same standards as the Georgia Aquarium does, and they kind of like just focus more on the profit side of things, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, in better news though, not all animals that are kept in captivity are used for unethical reasons. Rehabilitation centers for sea life differ from what a lot of us have talked about. Happens in aquariums or other like exhibits. Some of them are a combination of two, like the Clearwater Aquarium I talked about, which is both an aquarium for tourism and a rehabilitation center. It's just kind of how they make money to rescue the animals. But overall, the rehabilitation centers prioritize rescuing, treatment, and release of injured or sick marine life.
So, what are some of those aquariums' names? I'd like to be able to visit one of them one day.
Like I said before, the Clearwater Marine Aquarium is a good option. Some others in Florida are the Loggerhead Marine Life Center, which has a lot of sea turtles. It's in Juneau Beach. The Marine Life Center in Ponce Inlet, and the Florida Aquarium's Sea Turtle Rehabilitation Center, which is also in Tampa.
Could you describe a little bit like what the difference between like a marine rehabilitation like center and like a regular aquarium would be? I always kind of assumed they were like the same thing, or at least hoped they'd be the same thing, that all these facilities are being mainly used for research with the added benefit of, you know, showing off the public some cool animals and raising some money. But it sounds like there's obviously a clear difference between some of these kinds of institutions or businesses or whatever you want to call them. So if you want to describe that.
Yeah, a lot of aquariums do also have rehabilitation centers or like try to focus on education side, but marine rehabilitation is to focus mostly on the care for sick or injured animals that they rescue from the wild. So instead of focusing on a profit or entertainment for the public, they focus on rescuing and returning those animals to the wild. The goal of these is not captivity. They don't rescue them to keep and show. They rescue them and keep them only if they aren't suitable for release into the wild.
That's a big relief, because if the animal's healthy, it should be in the wild. And it feels like a bunch of aquariums nowadays are more focused on profit. So it's nice to see that there are institutions out there that are prioritizing the health of the animals rather than profit.
So, unfortunately, that is all the time we have today for this episode. I hope this session was as informational for y'all as it was for me. But whether it's SeaWorld, aquariums, or marine rehabilitation centers, each has its own impact on marine life, whether good or bad. SeaWorld represents a more extreme and often unethical form of captivity that we believe should not be supported. But in contrast, aquariums, especially those focused on education and conservation, can raise awareness and inspire the future generation to care for our oceans. Most ethical of all are, of course, rehabilitation centers, which prioritize the rescue, care, and release of marine animals, providing real benefits to both the animal and the environment. So as you plan your future visits to marine facilities, I hope you take the time to research where your time and money are going, because supporting the right places can really make a difference.